Hey guys, welcome to Let's Talk with Scorpion Tazz and JaguarGator9. Today, I want to thank you that you're joining us, and I just want to say that this episode is brought to you by Circle. Circle is hydration made simple, over 100 flavors that you can choose from. I've got my great bottle drop bottle here. JaguarGator9 got his new bottle. You'll get to see that in a minute, but click the link in the description or scan the QR code to check out all their great flavors. They range from 12 to 44-ounce bottles, and you can even get custom designs. Stainless steel designs start at 40 and plastic designs start at $25. Right now, if you hurry, you might be able to get a new sports bottle design that they've introduced during their bottle drop. These are limited edition runs, and that's how I got this one. And I hope that you try Circle today. Without further ado, here's the man of the hour, JaguarGator9. Hey man, how's it going?
It is going well. I'm loving the Circle bottle too. So thank you so much for that. This has been really good for my hydration. The apple flavor is amazing. The apple flavor is, I love all things apple. So
yeah,
amazing.
How are you liking that Honey Crisp apple? I have not tried that flavor yet.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, Honey Crisp apple are like my favorite kind of apples. Like Honey Crisp and Empire are like my two favorite apples. So as soon as you said there was a flavor like that, like, yeah, I was all in.
Well, over my right shoulder, you might notice there's a cartridge bag sitting there. You do this thing at the end of some of your broadcasts called overtime. That's actually called overtime. So we got to get you that next.
Double overtime.
There you go. So what's been going on since we talked last? I know you made a trip to Detroit, but you got UFL stuff going on. Let's kind of talk about that first. UFL. We just completed week 6, and an unlikely candidate for the worst team in the league happened to be last year's XFL champion. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm shocked. I thought with Luis Perez at quarterback again that this team was going to make the playoffs, and instead they are garbage. The Arlington Renegades are 0-6, the only team without a win thus far, and it's not for lack of trying. Like, the sad part about Arlington is that I don't think they're the worst team in the league. Like, their games are relatively competitive. They're always right in it. They just can't finish it out. They can't close the deal. Bad coaching decisions, bad defense, no running game. What summed up their season was what happened last week against the Michigan Panthers.
Yeah.
They have their best drive of the season. They finally get something going on the ground for the first time all year. This team's averaging like 2.5 yards a carry. They finally get something going because of Day Hunter, who had a phenomenal drive. He scored a touchdown, and then he did a celebration, almost like the Dirty Dancing celebration. And he got injured on that, and now he's on IR and he's out for the season. We have a Grammatica situation in the UFL. That doesn't sum up the Renegade season. I don't know what does.
Let's talk about that final drive for them. They do what they need to do to win the game, but they don't manage the clock correctly. They leave time on the clock for the Panthers. Jeff Bates is automatic if you're on if you let them on their side of the field. Just a heartbreaking way to lose that game, right?
Yeah. I've legitimately in my life, and I don't say this lightly, never seen a kicker like Jake Bates before. Like, not even like in the NFL. Like, not even like Justin Tucker and whatnot. Like, usually with kickers, you say, okay, if you get to the 35, you're in field goal range. With the best kickers, you get to the 40, I'm like, okay, you can try a field goal from here. With Bates, anything past the 50, I'm like, you know what? You're in range for him. Like, you can have him try this.
Especially indoors.
How much the game changes when your field goal line is the 50 versus the 35. And my guess is that, I mean, obviously he's going to go with the NFL after this. My guess is the Detroit Lions are going to get him. Brad Holmes will not let him leave the building. And
yeah, because you're thinking, okay, his field goal line is the 50 indoors. How many indoor games are the Lions going to be playing this year? Quite a few, right?
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because you think like the average, like let's say you get a stop, let's say you start a drive and they're inside the 20-yard line. Let's say you start at the 20-yard line, you get a 3 and out. The average net punt, let's say it's about 40 yards. The average net punt's about 40 yards. So when you're starting the drive at the 20, you're starting the other team's starting the drive when they get it back and they force a 3 and out and around the 35, 40-yard line. So if you have Bates on your team, you need 1 first down and you're in field goal range. It's
Right.
nuts. It's almost like starting the drive in opposing territory.
Yeah. I mean, with that kind of range, with that kind of ability, did this guy just not get seen? I mean, obviously he wasn't a kicker in college nor high school, correct?
Yeah. He did kickoffs in college. He did
He
kickoffs
did
in college.
kickoffs.
It's actually funny. The guy the Jaguars drafted in the 6th round, we'll get to that in a bit. The guy the Jaguars drafted was the starting kicker at Arkansas, and Bates was the backup. So Cam Little handled the field goals, and then Jake Bates did the kickoffs. And Little was a good kicker, don't get me wrong. But I
Right.
think Arkansas's coaching staff is still looking at what Bates is doing, like, oh, God, what the heck did we miss in this guy?
Do you think that a lot of people are now kicking themselves for not signing him?
I don't think so, because he never tried to kick in high school, never tried to kick in college. Like, I can't blame any teams. Like, no one should be
Not
kicking
taking the
themselves
risk.
for not signing a guy that no one knew about.
Right.
Because how are you going to know about this guy if you never tried a field goal before?
Right. And
It's
with
just
the limited
incredible.
roster space in the UFL, there's no way to have 2 kickers. In the NFL, it's rare.
Yeah.
And I think you said last time the Colts were the last team to really have 2 kickers
Yeah.
the roster during the season.
Yeah. It's almost like if I were to go out there on a basketball court right now and beat LeBron James one-on-one, and now every NBA team wants to sign me, no one's going to kick themselves for not signing me because they didn't know I existed. No one knew
Right.
Jake Bates existed. He had no resume. He had nothing to go off of. But I think now, obviously, I'd be flabbergasted if he's out on the roster next season in the NFL.
Yeah. We know Detroit is probably not going to let him leave the city, but where else could you see him land now that Jags have taken a kicker in the draft?
The main one I could see, I know they just signed Joey Sly, who the Jaguars cut. I could see New England. I could see a scenario where he could wind up in New England, maybe even maybe Los Angeles too. I know they drafted a kicker, but you never know with rookie kickers. You never know.
Right.
My guess is Detroit at the end of the day, but New England would not shock me. Obviously, you want to be in Detroit versus New England because A, it's a better team, B, better stadium for kicking. You're kicking indoors half the time. And C,
Right.
he obviously knows the area pretty well, seeing as he's played there. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Detroit.
Yeah. Let's talk Tank Bowl because every season or every time we go through football, there's got to be a Tank Bowl. This week has it. Arlington being part of that. 0-6. Talk about the Tank Bowl.
Yeah. So you have 2 games on Saturday, and one of them is like the 5-star steakhouse that you're going to. It's the 5-star.
And the others is going to McDonald's at midnight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty much the difference in quality is stark. Arlington 0-6, Memphis 1-5. They have not won since their first game, and they have not even looked remotely competitive for the most part of that stretch. If Arlington doesn't win this game, I think they're going to go winless. Arlington has to be the favorite in my mind. Obviously they're a bad team. I don't think they're as bad as their record indicates. I feel like they're better than Houston and Memphis on paper right now. They just can't strung it together. Memphis is just inept in every single way.
Does that come down to more the coaching or the quality of players they have?
Yeah, I would say for who, Memphis or Arlington?
For Memphis.
I would say a bit of both. I would say definitely the offensive line has not helped. I think Case Cookus is a bit overrated. I think the thing with Cookus is that we said that he was getting beaten up in the USFL with the Philadelphia Stars. And we said, okay, the offensive line's the problem. And now we're saying here he's getting beaten up, the offensive line's the problem. If you're saying, okay, the O-line's problem everywhere he's been, and he's been on a few different teams. Maybe there's something else there
Right.
that maybe you're not going through your reads the right way, or something else is happening because there's a common theme with Case Cookus. There's a common theme with that offense and how it operates.
And with how Perez has played for several years now in spring football, he can make the reads, he can make the adjustments. We know he can play, we know he can win. I'm looking at the Arlington more as Shoops is Bob Shoops is just phoning it in almost.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of like I think something like stream last year, and then obviously they went on their run. But he was kind of phoning it in to some extent with some of the coaching decisions he made last year. And it's bizarre because you look at Perez, he's not throwing garbage time yards. He leads the league in passing yards. Can you
Right.
imagine a situation in the NFL where not having garbage time yards, where a guy's throwing for the most yards in the league and the
And
team is winless?
and
Like, you can't
yeah,
imagine.
that's
Like, imagine Patrick Mahomes on the Cleveland Browns here that went 0-16. Like, that's what this is sort of like.
right.
It's crazy. I have not seen anything like this in quite some time.
Yeah, the way that Arlington has played, like you said, up and down quality wise, just it reminds me a little of what the Panthers. There were some Panthers games last season that it looked like, okay, if they can just finish the job, they could win. And that we saw what happened with them completely collapsing. Well, they were already collapsed, but they didn't even start to build anything really. And I think that's Arlington really just collapsed this year. Same with Memphis. Um, Never really getting out of the gate to make a run.
Yeah, the DC game is what really killed Arlington. If they win that game against DC, where they're up by, I think it was like 15 points with 2 minutes left, they
Right.
win that game, this is a completely different conversation. We're talking about Arlington as a possible playoff team, I think. It all
Yeah.
just spiraled after that.
I mean, do you, speaking of playoffs, who are the 4 teams you're expecting to make the playoffs at this point?
Oof. I'd be very surprised if it's not the 4 that are in right now. Birmingham's clinched. St. Louis is they're clearly going to make it. And then I'm guessing Michigan, and then the interesting one is the San Antonio versus DC. DC's 3-3, San Antonio's 4-2. They both played each other earlier. They split the season series, but I just don't know with San Antonio quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, Quinn Dormady did not look good last week. He had I think 70 passing yards the entire game, and the week before that he had 3 interceptions. They just signed Jane Delore, the Arizona quarterback, so maybe he could be the starter because obviously Chase Garbers was doing fine, and then he got hurt out for the season. DC, they have Jordan Tamu. They've got guys on that team. They could easily go on a run, and obviously DC is phenomenal at home. They're, I think, 11-1 at home since they started playing in 2020. So I could see DC getting the final spot. I'm going to stick with San Antonio just because I'm not sold on Reggie Barlow as a head coach. But I'm not sold on San Antonio's offense right now. I'm not sure how he can be with their quarterback play as of late.
St. Louis, obviously, if St. Louis is in, that place is going to be a madhouse come championship weekend. Is that what you're really wanting? Is St. Louis to host that championship game?
I think everyone wants St. Louis. I think everyone, if you like the UFL and you don't have a specific team, what you are rooting for the long-term viability and stability of the league, not the league's in any danger. Like, the TV ratings are great. Everything seems to be going very, very well. But what you want is St. Louis in the title game, because the championship game is guaranteed to be in St. Louis no matter what happens. St. Louis in the title game means a sold-out dome in front of a national television audience, and you see 65,000 crazy fans going nuts. I mean, like, oh my goodness, this league is for real. It would almost be like, remember in 2020, St. Louis opened up the entire dome for one of their games, and it was going to be sold out, over 60,000, and then COVID happened and it canceled it. But that game would have been on national TV, and that game would have announced to the world, no, this league is legit. The XFL is legit. And now, hopefully, we get that 4 years later.
Do you see St. Louis making the championship, win or lose? Do you see that being the Super Bowl 3 of this league, of they're here to stay?
I think so. If St. Louis makes the championship and you have 65,000 fans packing the dome, it's going to be a moment where people are like, "Oh, this league is for real." I think people already realize this league's for real. Like social media impressions are up tremendously. The ratings are up a ridiculous amount. I think last year the average week 6 rating for the average week 6 audience for the Expo was like 600,000. For the USFL was 450,000. This week for week 6 it was over 900,000.
Yeah. They're
So
pulling. Someone said I read something that Tony Khan actually made a comment saying the UFL is drawing wrestling numbers right now.
yeah.
And no one can be mad about that.
No, no, I think everyone has to be very, very pleased with how the ratings are for the UFL. Because there's always the concern with spring football that it happens every year during spring football. Okay, spring football's here. I'm excited. I miss football. We're going to watch week 1, and then the ratings plummet. They go down. The novelty wears off, and people realize,
Right.
oh, this isn't the best quality of football. I don't really need football. I just need like a fix for a bit, but I don't really need this. But the ratings are stable. The ratings are completely stable, and they're going up.
What about attendance?
Attendance is hit or miss. Attendance, it depends on the team. Attendance, this is not really a league designed for attendance. This is
a TV league.
Yeah,
this is totally a TV league.
Yeah, this league's gonna be made or make or break is gonna be TV because that's how they get the bulk of the revenue and they get the sponsorships that way. But attendance, you've got obviously St. Louis is doing great, DC is doing great, San Antonio. I feel like they're gonna do a lot better. It's really the USFL teams. Birmingham, we'll see what happens this week. Attendance has been fine in Birmingham, but they've obviously had some issues. They played up against A-Day for Alabama spring game. They had a weather delay for one of their games, so people didn't show up for that. This week, they should get a good crowd. The other teams I'm a bit concerned about, especially Memphis.
DC, I think, made the right call of playing a soccer stadium. How many other teams do you think would benefit if they moved into smaller venues like soccer stadiums?
I think it would definitely help it would definitely make it seem fuller because obviously 15,000 at FedEx Field, whatever they're calling that stadium now, because it does have a sponsor, looks way different than 15,000 at a stadium that holds 20,000. Looks way different than Audi Field. The thing with that also is the location. I mean, obviously Audi Field is downtown, where the Commanders plays in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Like I could definitely see. I mean, Houston right now, Rice Stadium is just not good for them. They did much better at TDECU Stadium where Houston plays. I could see. I mean, it's not going to happen because it's in season. But I could see if they wanted to move into BBVA Compass Stadium where the Dynamo play. It would look way better. It would look way better for the atmosphere.
Right. I mean, and do you ever see a point where, let's say, the UFL does championship games at random locations? Do you ever see a point where the UFL championship game could fill a place like NRG or Alliance or somewhere that they could get the? I mean, obviously they got to clear it with the NFL. I mean, they've done it with Ford Field, but do you ever see a point where a UFL championship game could fill some of the larger NFL stadiums?
Well, like in terms of like a neutral site, like two teams that have no affiliations. Like obviously, like St. Louis, they're going to fill that place,
right?
But like two teams with no affiliation, I can't see it.
Okay.
It never happened. Like the USFL was the heyday of spring football. That was back in the 1980s, and they drew great crowds for the neutral site championships. But those were like 50,000, which is obviously a great number, but it didn't fill the stadium. There were empty seats.
Yeah,
I can't ever see us reaching that point.
Right. So, what are your predictions for this week? You got 4 games. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I think Arlington. I think they win. I think Arlington. They're due.
Ends their streak.
They're due. The big kahuna obviously is the battle between Birmingham and St. Louis, which I.
Who do you have winning that game?
That is right after the Tank Bowl. That's right after the Tank Bowl.
We go from McDonald's to Five Guys in one shot, huh?
I'm just thanking God that the Memphis game is on ESPN and the St. Louis game is on Fox. So, because you know what happens at Memphis Arlington goes with like double overtime or something,
Oh yeah,
overrun, and then no one cares about that game, and we missed the start of St. Louis Birmingham. But I would
yeah,
say, look, Birmingham, they're what 23-3 lifetime. There's something ridiculous. Adrian Martinez is playing at an insane level right now. If Matt Corral was starting, I'd take St. Louis. I'm not betting against Birmingham. I've not seen a reason to bet against Skip Holtz in Birmingham. So
right.
I'm gonna go Birmingham. I'm gonna go Birmingham on that one.
And the other two games, the kind of, these games are here, but
Yeah,
I know you're going to live stream them.
Yeah, Michigan DC is a pretty big game. Michigan DC is a pretty big game, especially for DC. That one's tough. That's a toss up. That's
Now
that's
they're
that's a
playing.
toss up.
They're playing in DC, correct?
Right, they're playing in DC. I'm
With
gonna
no
go DC
dome.
on that one. I think that's one where I would take the home team. That's one where I
Yeah.
would take the home team. I'm gonna go DC and then San Antonio, Houston. Houston's just inept right now. I know San Antonio's offense has been struggling badly, but I'm not sure how Houston scores more than 14 on
Yeah.
this San Antonio team, and that might be all you need. I'm going to take San Antonio to win that game.
And that one, there's really no home field advantage. You're talking about a 3-hour drive between the two.
Yeah.
There's going to be as many Houston fans there as there are San Antonio fans. So
yeah. And it's going to look empty. It's going to be like probably 6,000 people. And remember too, like all these teams are based in Texas. So all 8 teams, they train in Texas, they live in Texas, and then they fly out for the game specifically.
Right.
So there's not really going to be any like issue with the players at all. It's going to be minimal at best.
Right.
Hopefully they get to a point where they can be in the cities that they're in, but they have to keep costs down somehow. And I completely get that. I have no problem.
I get why it was designed that way. One, a little bit on still having the concept of COVID can hit at any time. And 2, for a financial point of view of training facilities, if everyone's training in pretty much the same area, it cuts cost.
Oh yeah. The big thing too for me, the one that I thought of was trades. Teams are not going to make trades and do transactions if I have to. I'm already like a minor league football or minor football league where like we're trying to keep costs down. I want to get this player, but I have to fly him out and everything.
Right.
And they conduct the physical event, I have to fly him back if he doesn't work like that. It adds up. So you can do trades and they don't have to leave anywhere, which is good.
Yeah,
you get more players.
Right. I think it's Dallas Fort Worth areas where they're home based.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the expansion potential of this league. Do you see them going 2 seasons at this 8 team league and then expanding? I know we've had this conversation before of them expanding back out to include all the teams that were eliminated during the merger.
Yeah. They want to go 10. The things I've heard is that they want to go 10 next year. Now, that's a bit of a double-edged sword because on one hand, the TV ratings are great. You figure this league is made for TV, and the networks would love that. On the other hand, I'm not sure going to 10 is the best idea from an attendance standpoint because obviously the thing with the teams right now is that they're some of them are doing great in their markets and some of them are not. I feel like you have to have markets stabilized before you go further. It's almost like if you have a theme park. Let's say you have a theme park. Like let's just say Animal Kingdom. Let's say Animal Kingdom. And people say, okay, let's build a 5th park in Disney World. And I think we're all thinking, why build a 5th park? Animal Kingdom is a half-day park as it is. Fill up Animal Kingdom first, and then you can build a 5th park. It's almost like that. Like I think before expansion, relocation, not to like New York or California because taxes are going to be too high. They already rolled it out, but they did file trademarks for certain things. I would say definitely get a team in Canada, Ohio. The Breakers, you can bring the Breakers back in New Orleans because the TV ratings are actually pretty good in New Orleans. I think Omaha is a very underrated market. They drew great for the Nighthawks in the UFL back in 2010, 2011. Virginia Beach is also an interesting market. Uh, I'm not sure how much will come into DC, but that could be a very interesting market because they got some really good crowds for the Destroyers. You have a stadium there that holds like 12,000. It's like the perfect size. You could do
Yeah.
some really good stuff in Virginia and Omaha and New Orleans. Bring them back if you find a stadium, and Canton, Ohio. I think those make the most sense in terms of expansion. But it all depends. If it's a TV league, then expansion makes a ton of sense. If they're keeping the costs down, yeah, expand. We
Yeah.
can worry about the attendance later because right now the TV ratings are great. They've tried some games where it's regionally televised. I could definitely see a model where they go half the time they'll do 5 games a week. They'll do like a triple header Saturday and then double header Sunday or something like that. And then half the time they'll do okay. We're going to do a regionally televised game on Saturdays. So
Right. And run 2 games at the same time.
yeah.
Um, Speaking of the TV side, do you feel that they need to stick with just the 2 partners of Fox and ESPN, or is shopping around if they go to, say, a 12-team league, shop around for a 3rd television partner?
That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, ESPN and Fox were very good for the UFL. Fox more so than ESPN, but they've both been very good. I'm not sure you need to shop around necessarily. I'm not sure how much interest NBC would have, especially if they're getting the rights to the NBA. CBS is
Right.
very traditional. They don't want to preempt programming. They have golf, and that draws better ratings. So I don't think they would be interested. So I think you're kind of stuck with ESPN Fox. Not that you're stuck with them, but I
Right.
feel like those are 2 partners and just grow from there. Because
And
remember,
with
the other thing that's interesting is that you can't put games on streaming services exclusively. You can't
right.
put games on cable, not counting ESPN, because the ratings for the XFL and USFL when put games on Peacock and USA and FX were terrible, and even
Right.
ESPN too, they were terrible. So you have
And
to.
I feel even though Turner's trying to get more back into sports, I mean, they've had the NBA for forever, and they next season they'll be getting back into NASCAR. Um, but do you see a day where Turner might say, "Hey, this might be a good idea," or do you think they're going to see it as that's going to cut into our basketball coverage?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on if they even keep the basketball coverage. It depends on if
Right.
Turner because they might lose it. I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but maybe. I mean, if they go to 14 at some point, like if they like 10 is fine, 12 maybe you could still do Saturday Sunday and still do the way it is. But if they go to
Right.
14, they'll probably have to figure out a way. They might do like a Monday night game, which I'm not sure how great it's going to be for the attendance or the ratings because the ratings were not great when they did Monday night, but. Last year in the XFL, but remember also the TV schedule was very, very whack in the XFL last year. We didn't know what time the games were. There was no stability. This year,
Right.
there's stability. You know the games are Saturday, 2 on Sunday every day, and they're usually 1-4 or 12-3. And
Yeah.
sometimes a little night game, but you know when the games are on. And
Now,
that's the thing.
during the spring, they don't have to. They don't have to worry about the broadcasting problem that the NFL has of the Friday night high school games, right?
No, nope, nope.
So
You don't have to worry
a
about that.
Friday night game could trickle in if needed.
It could. The problem is that Friday nights are usually the death night for TV. Ratings
Rating,
are usually awful for Friday nights. And for a
unless you're
TV,
ABC in the 90s.
yeah. But besides that, like it is you don't want to do games on Friday night. If you can
Yeah,
avoid Friday night at all costs, you do.
right. Well, let's talk about a little trip you took the final week of April up to Detroit. 1, did you have fun? 2, what was the travel like? And then 3, how much did you lose?
Oh man. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Detroit, they did some things really, really well. Detroit did some things really, really well. There were some things that I had issue with, but they did a lot of things really, really well. And the NFL staff there was absolutely incredible. They really treated us well. And they did a good job. And it was the largest crowd ever for the draft. And it just made me that much more worried about what's going to happen next year in Green Bay. I'm like, how the heck are they going to pull this off?
They better build some hotels.
Yeah, they're all sold out. Like you can't. Like it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very very interesting.
Might
But
have to team up with Grossi on getting to that one, huh?
yeah, yeah. Well, Grossi lives in New York. I don't know how he's gonna do it. I don't even know how he's gonna or he's
He's
gonna
on.
stay.
I think I heard him make a statement that actually the team is hosting him for that
Oh,
draft since he want because of the fan of the year thing
yeah.
and all of that.
That's a good perk. That's a pretty good perk. Just live
now
inside
you
Lambeau Field. Yeah,
now you went kind of on a VIP style ticket where
yeah.
you got to do some fun things, including meeting Megatron. What
Yes.
was that like?
Oh, he's such a nice guy. He's so nice. He's so down to earth. He's so personable. Super easy to talk to. Got a photo with him. Got his autograph, and he busted out laughing when I told him what I said. I told him I love you. You're like one of my favorite players, but I also hate you because you made every team think they could run the goal line fade. Made every team think they could run the goal line fade. Because it's true, like he's the only guy that can do it. He's the only guy that can do it. And every team was like, oh, Calvin Johnson can do it. Let's try run the goal line fade down by the goal line with these 5'10" receivers or
I
guys that
mean,
are not Calvin Johnsons. Like it never works out. So like
well, I mean, you think Walter Payton and you think about the halfback dive
yeah,
over the goal line, right?
yeah. Well, that's at least that looks cool. At least that looks cool.
Yeah,
That does work. I mean, Leonard Fournette did that a lot, and it was cool every time he did it.
yeah.
But Calvin, it's like he was too good at what he did. He was way too good at what he did.
Especially when he was playing Houston or Jacksonville.
Yep, yep. Which wasn't
Um,
often, but it did happen.
best autograph you got other than Calvin.
Besides Calvin, I got Lomas Brown. That was nice. I got the three Bama players that were there. I got the three Bama players. I got Latu. I hate that he went to the Colts, but I got Latu.
You
And
got the most hated man in football right now,
yeah,
Goodell.
yep, I got Goodell. I've got him a lot. I got him like every year that he goes for whatever reason. I don't know how I have so many Goodell autographs. It's sick. But I think my favorite one, just by pure chance, my favorite one is that I brought Patriots helmets to the draft because I figured, you know what, maybe I can get like Drake May to sign. And he didn't like the quarterbacks were just mobbed. They couldn't sign anything. They were mobbed by the
Right.
media and everything. So I figured, you know what though? I have the Pats helmets. We're next to the Pats fan section. Day 2 is when like legends announce the picks and current players announce the picks. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's a chance that a Patriot player could come over to the Pats fan section afterwards. It doesn't always happen like that. I'm like, you know, maybe there's a chance. So bring the Pats helmet and let's see what happens. And I brought it, and Michael Onwenu announced the pick, the offensive lineman that just got that $57 million contract, one of the best offensive linemen in football. He announced the pick, and then he came over to the Pats fan section. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This actually worked. So I had like Pats helmets ready for him to sign. And like, he like was like, he wasn't baffled. Like he started, but I'm sure he was running back his mind. Why? How did he know? And why does a Jaguar fan have Patriot helmets?
It's like, yeah, you got every helmet.
Yeah. And then my the funniest one was Kyle Brandt. That was the funniest one. I'll never forget that one because he tweeted something that said, "Okay, I'm going to do live reporting at the draft from the inner circle," which we sat like on the side, but the inner circle like it's next to it. Like the Patriots fan section, the AFC's fan section's there, and he's like he's going to report live from every fan section for each of the picks in the first round. So once I saw it, I brought an NFL helmet thinking, okay, maybe Goodell walks around, I can get him to sign it. But I was like, you know what, if another media person walks around, I can get them to sign it. So Kyle Brandt was standing next to the Patriots section because they're going to be on the clock, draft Drake May. So he had some time to kill. He was at the Pats section. And I hold out the helmet on a Sharpie, and I'm like, you sign this for me. And he's like, you really want me to sign this? He he thought it was like gonna like he thought he was like degrading the value of the helmet. He was like, he's like, oh, okay, sure. He like was stunned. He was like baffled. I love the guy. I think he's.
What other media guys would you like to have that you don't have autographs of?
Yeah, the one that I'm bummed about is that when when we did the meet and greet with Calvin Johnson, I thought it was just a meet and greet. So I brought Lions helmets. I brought a Lions helmet for him to sign. But what I didn't know, what they didn't tell us, was that I brought 2 NFL helmets because I had to for whatever reason, was that they didn't tell us that it was being hosted by Peter Schrager. So I didn't bring an NFL helmet. And I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. That would have been a sick one to have. Just have like a Good Morning Football helmet with Schrager and Brad.
Oh man, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah. So let's go through some of the draft here. Let's talk overall. What grade do you give the team, the overall draft? How did all the teams do collectively, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the boring answer is that teams are going to average out to a C with all the teams collectively. There's some teams that did better than others. Some teams that did way better than others. I think the Bears, they only had 4 picks, but I think they did a really good job with those 4 picks. I really like what Chicago did, especially in the top 10. You now have no excuses for Caleb Williams going forward, which is awesome.
Right.
They have now the best 1-2-3 combo in football in Rome, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. Like, they really stood out him with talent. Plus Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift at running back. Like, you've got talent there.
Would you say they won the draft overall?
I would say the team that won the draft is Detroit. I think Detroit won the draft. They got some guys that I did not think were going to be there. I was stunned with how well they did. You're telling me that Detroit at pick 24 got Terry and Arnold, the Bama quarterback that I thought was the best corner in the draft. And then they got who I thought was the 3rd best corner in the draft in Rakestraw. They got him in round 2. I'm like, okay.
He should have been off the board.
Yeah. I'm like, you need to rebuild your secondary. You just did it. Like, that was incredible. I don't know how you got both those guys in the first 2 rounds, but you could have drafted long snappers every other pick from that point on. Right. I would have had no problem with it. Like, they won the draft in my mind.
What team lost the draft?
Rhymes with Schmatlanta. Rhymes with. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know.
Talk about Atlanta. First pick off the board for them. They take a quarterback. That they just signed a quarterback.
Yeah, they have such like the thing with that is that people are going to say, okay, it's like Jordan Love. They're going to say, okay, it's like the Jordan Love situation in Green Bay, and that worked out pretty well for them. It's not like that at all. That's a lazy comparison. Because here's the thing: number one, Aaron Rodgers was threatening retirement. We didn't know how much longer Aaron Rodgers had. Kirk Cousins just signed a 4-year deal. So you figure he's not retiring for the next 4 years. Number 2, Rodgers was on the decline. Now, obviously, he won the MVP in 2020, 2021, but he was on the decline. He was getting hurt. Cousins, he's playing at a pretty high level. He was playing at a very high level. He was not declining. If anything, he was getting better.
Right.
The other thing is that Jordan Love was 20 years old. He needed time to develop. He was not ready. And we all saw that in preseason. And then when he did have to play against the Chiefs, when Rodgers was out due to COVID restrictions, Penix is 24. Penix is 24 years old. He doesn't need to sit. He's played in college football longer than most people have been alive. So he doesn't need to sit. And the thing with the Cousins Penix situation is that you have a top 10 pick. You have a chance to win the NFC South. And Penix can't help you this year. He can't help you next year. By the time you have to make a decision on Penix being the long-term option at quarterback, his contract's up. Because Cousins on a 4-year deal, you're going to get Penix on a 4-year deal. Now, granted, 5th-year option, bit of a different story. You could get him on a 5th-year option, but still, is 1 year enough to evaluate a quarterback when he's playing? And 5th-year options are expensive. They're less expensive than re-signing the guy, but they're still very expensive. They're like $25 million to pick it up. So this either means that Cousins, if you sign Cousins to a 2-year deal, I would have no problem with this. If you sign to a 3-year deal, I would have no problem with this because you could say, okay, we're going to let Penix sit for a bit. He's the guy. We don't like any quarterbacks in 25. It's looking like a very weak class on paper, and we're probably not going to be in a spot to get a quarterback. We're going to let Penix sit for 2 or 3 years, and then he'll take over, and then we can pick up the 5th-year option, and we have 2 years to evaluate if he's the guy, and we'll know by that point. But this, I don't know how you're going to have time to evaluate how good Penix is and if he's the guy. And obviously, if he plays well, he's going to want out. And Cousins is not happy about this. You ticked him off because you didn't let him know about this until you were on the clock and you drafted him. It's insane.
What was the reaction? I mean, I know what the reaction was through TV. I was watching the ESPN broadcast. What was the reaction in the hall when they announced that?
Oh, it was just laughter. No one could believe it. No
Not even
one
the
could believe
Atlanta
it.
fans, huh?
Yeah, no one could believe what they did. Because the crazy part too is that you look at Cousins' contract, it'd be different if it was like really a 4-year deal, but it's a 2-year deal and you can like get out of it with no dead cap. The Falcons are going to have, if they cut Cousins before 2027, Cousins is carrying a $57.5 million cap hit in 2027. And
Ouch.
his dead cap, if you cut him, is $12.5 million. So you're on the hook for a lot of money with Cousins, whether he's the guy or he's not the guy. So then it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Nothing about this adds up. Because the other thing too that makes no sense to me is that you knew Penix was going to be on the board today. This was not a situation where it's like Aaron Rodgers at the 05 NFL draft, where you're thinking to yourself, okay, he's going to go in the top 10. You pick in the 20s. He's going to go top 10. I know we don't need a quarterback, but we're not going to get him. And then he slides on board like, oh, we have a chance to get a guy we grade really highly. No one had Penix going higher. No one had Penix going higher than 8th to the Falcons. Not a single team was going to take Penix. You knew that Penix would be on the board at pick 8 when you signed Kirk Cousins. So, and you never met with a guy at like the combine, and that was it. You never attended his pro day, never attended anything like that. You had like minimal conversation with him. I just don't get why you give Cousins all this money, why you give him that long-term contract if you knew that Penix was going to be on the board at 8 and you wanted Penix.
Right. It made no sense to me. It really just it was like I was more watching the first day out of curiosity of what the Jags were going to do, because obviously Houston didn't have any picks.
Yep.
And I was more looking at the division, not the overall. But yeah, Atlanta was like, okay, why did they do that? And then it was like, I heard you commenting about it. I saw your comments about it. I saw Grossi's comments about it. I saw all the YouTube sports media commenting about it. And it's like, okay, they just screwed up majorly.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about your team, the Jags. Other than one certain pick, we'll get to that one. Was this pretty much what you expected?
Yes and no. So in terms of the needs, yes.
You got what you needed.
In terms of the needs, I'm like, you know what? We needed to do this, and this the first 3 days, or the first 2 days. And the first 3 rounds, we need to get a wide receiver, we need to get a defensive lineman, and we need to get a cornerback. And we got them. We just went about it in a really, really bizarre way. What's the thing with what we've done, though, is the way we went about it was very weird. Because we were talking about trading up, and then Bulky couldn't get a trade up going because he stinks at trading up. And he basically said, we're trying to get something done. It never happened. And it's weird because we're the only team that doesn't know how to trade up. Every other team traded up at some point. We didn't. So
Y'all know how to trade down.
Yeah. Second straight year it happened where Bulky was like, it takes 2 to tango. We need a partner. And it never happened. So
sounds like he just doesn't have any friends among the other GMs.
Very incompetent at what he does. Like we just went about it in a bizarre way where it's like, okay, we got our cornerback, but we didn't get it. We like round 2, there were a ton of cornerbacks on the board because no one went until Mitchell to the Eagles.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna have, and there were I think there were 2 corners drafted. It might have been 3. But I'm like, okay, like no, there were 3 because Wiggins went to the Ravens from Clemson. But there were a ton of cornerbacks, like Kool-Aid, Rakestraw, a lot of corners on the board. I thought, okay, we're going to trade up in day 2, get one of them, get the run on cornerbacks where they start, and it never happened. And then I'm like in round 1, it's like there were rumors that, okay, we're going to trade for a receiver. And then that never happened. So we got what we needed, just in a really, really roundabout way.
Well, let's talk about the one pick. You made reference to it earlier.
Yeah.
The one pick that was a total yes, y'all need a kicker, but why not just wait for the UFL season to end? Is this more of his inability to manage a team?
Yes, this is Bulky not paying attention to anything happening in the UFL. That's what this is. Because if he did, he'd realize, oh, we can just sign Matt McCrane after the season's done. We can sign Smizet from the Battlehawks after the season's done. They're more than capable. They've been playing lights out. They're hitting from 50 plus regularly. McCrane's great with DC. Obviously, the big fish in the pond is Jake Bates, but
Right.
you're probably not going to get him. But still, there are other kickers in this league that are available, and you choose to draft a 20-year-old. He's not even of legal age. Like, he can't even drink legally.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old. And you decide, let's spend a draft pick on this guy, on a kicker, instead of just waiting for the UFL season to be done. Like, it just seems, every team that drafted a kicker, it seems like a waste of a pick. Every team that drafted a kicker, it seems like a complete waste of a pick.
Yeah. Now the NFL and NFL teams can't poach UFL guys while the UFL season's going, right?
Right. They cannot. They have to wait till the season's done.
Okay. So obviously you've said that those three kickers are probably not going to be playing in the UFL next year. They're probably going to be playing in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So Jacksonville premature on using a draft pick for a kicker. What about some of the other teams that used drafts on kickers?
Yeah. The Vikings use one, which I don't get the Vikings using one because they signed John Parker Romo last year, who was phenomenal in the XFL. So I don't know why they drafted a kicker there, having compete with Parker Romo. I'm not sure he's going to win that job over Parker Romo. The Rams, I at least somewhat get. The Rams, I'll give a pass to because they had no one. The Rams had no one. If they were left out in the dust,
they couldn't sign someone out of the UFL.
Yeah. Plus, also remember, like the salary is going to be pretty comparable for the kickers, but California taxes are really high, so your dollar goes less in California than it would for a lot of the other teams.
Right.
So I at least understand the Rams drafting a kicker because they have no one on the roster that can reliably kick.
A $2 million contract in California is almost like a $5 million contract with any other team.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Texans. Obviously, no first round pick. Their second round pick, everything I've seen, I like the pick. Everyone else seems to like this pick. What is your thought?
I hate it because I love it. He was the guy I wanted. If I couldn't get Rakestraw, I wanted Lassiter. I wanted McKinstry, Lassiter, or Rakestraw. I wanted one of those three at quarterback in round 2. And the fact that Lassiter went to the Texans, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. They got a first round.
It's like, okay, just more trouble for Trevor to deal with.
Yep. Like, fantastic.
I didn't really get to see a lot of day 2 and day 3 of the draft. I did get to see that pick. Mm-hmm. Where would you grade the Jags and grade the Texans on their overall drafts?
Yeah, I think the Texans, considering the fact that they didn't have a first-round pick, I thought they did pretty well, especially with the last round pick. I give them a B. Jaguars, I give a C+. I give the Jags a C+. It really is hinging on Little, the kicker, and it's hinging on Brian Thomas. And they're question marks. They're talented, but they're question marks.
I don't even know if they're going to make the team.
Yeah, well, Thomas will make the team. Thomas is first. Yeah. But I just look at it and like, okay, you could have talked to Josh Allen before everything started. I mean, there was no contact with Josh Allen before the Pro Bowl even. You could have talked to him, signed to a long-term deal because he wanted to stay in Jacksonville. You could have done that. Franchise tag Calvin Ridley, and then you could have drafted a guy like Terry and Arnold with that pick. Or you let Ridley walk, you replace him with Brian Thomas, and you franchise Josh Allen, and you don't get the first-round cornerback. I just think this was a completely botched situation when it didn't have to be.
Yeah.
I look at it like, would the Jaguars be better off right now with Josh Allen, Calvin Ridley, and Terry and Arnold, or would they be better off right now with Josh Allen, Brian Johnson, and who even knows at cornerback?
Yeah.
And the answer is option A.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The Jags love the Cons to death. They do amazing stuff with down in Jacksonville. They do amazing stuff over in Europe with Fulham and all of that stuff. But man, they just cannot find a GM that
No.
seems to have the team's interest in mind when they're drafting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Y'all really haven't had a good overall draft in a while, have you?
2021 was pretty good. 2021 was good. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, phenomenal. But you got ETN, you got Tyson Campbell, you got Andre Sisco, Walker Little, and Luke Farrell. But besides that, yeah, I mean, 2016 was great with Ramsey, Jack, and Ngakoue. 2019 was better than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. You got Josh Allen, which was great. You got Jawan Taylor, and then you got a third round story pick for him. You got Gardner Minshew. Like you got players in 2019. You got some, but it's been a while since we had like from top to bottom a great class.
Yeah,
because 2023 is not looking like it's shaping out to be.
Yeah. So we have a new regime up in New England. Is this business as usual for their draft? Do you think? Do you think Belichick being gone helped or hurt their draft this year?
I have no clue. The thing with the Pats that I don't get for me is that they hadn't hired a GM yet. So now you're going to have to hire a GM. But at the same time, I'm not sure who's going to want to come to England because you're tied to the quarterback that you just drafted, but you didn't draft him. He's not your guy. The other thing with the Patriots is that what was interesting with them, they drafted 2 quarterbacks. They drafted 2, which was bizarre. It happens sometimes, but not often. They drafted May and they drafted Joe Milton. So it shows how they feel about that quarterback room.
Yeah.
I think Polk in round 2 was a reach. I think Polk in round 2 was a massive, massive reach.
At this point, I don't know whose quarterback room is in more disarray. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or New England.
Yeah, I have no clue. I mean, because Jalen Polk is not like their wide receiving unit did not upgrade. I mean, maybe you could say Baker in round 4 was a decent pick, considering he was projected to go. I'm not high on Baker, but he was projected to go a bit earlier. But Polk in round 2 that early, especially with some of the other receivers on the board, just trying to think of guys that I liked on the board that were better than him. Like I thought he was the 3rd best receiver at Washington. I thought it was the 3rd best receiver at Washington. I thought McMillan was better.
And ESPN's YouTube coverage, which is what I was watching when New England made that pick, they were not very high on that pick. It seemed like they were kind of mixed on whether that pick was a good pick or not.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I get that. So I know we both follow Grassi. Yes. We know what he's capable of doing here on YouTube. Do you think Grassi is happy with what the Packers did this year? From his content he's released.
Yeah. I think he's okay with it. I think after what happened last year where the Packers nailed the draft, they got so many quality players. I think there's trust in Goot, but I think you could tell like, oh crap, the Lions knocked it out of the park. We've got some trouble.
Yeah.
You could tell based on his reaction to the Lions picks that the Lions did a really good thing. And Jordan Morgan was a bit of an interesting pick at offensive tackle in the first round. Morgan, I did not think if they were going to tackle, I didn't think they were going to go with Morgan.
I think you said this. The NFC North is going to be a juggernaut this year, right?
It is the best division in the NFC, and I don't think there's a close second. The Vikings are a question mark, but even look, last year they had no quarterback and they were still around 500. The Bears are going to be a playoff team if everything goes well. Lions are great. Packers are great. That's a tough division.
Yeah. And who do you see kind of being the juggernaut of the AFC? Now that drafts are in and we know what's going on.
It's still KC. Until proven otherwise. I mean, they had stick figures at wide receiver last year and they still won the Super Bowl. They're I think Houston's number 2, but I think at this point you have to ask yourself Kansas City versus the field.
Yeah.
With the AFC. And are you taking
AFC North? You think the AFC North is still kind of the juggernaut as far as division goes?
Yes, that's still the top division. I mean, every team was above 500 last year. The Bengals have a healthy Burrow back. I think the Browns are the worst team in that division right now just because I don't trust Deshaun Watson. He
Right.
didn't look good last year except for one half against Baltimore. Pittsburgh's always in it, and Russell Wilson's better than anything they had a quarterback last year. And then Baltimore,
Right.
they were great last year, number 1 seed, and they got Lamar Jackson back and healthy. So
Yeah. Do you see both NFC and AFC West as kind of the one-hit wonder of the group?
no, because the Rams are pretty good. The Rams are pretty good. The AFC West Chargers, I like what they did this draft. I think this was the best draft they've had in a while. Helps when Telesco's no longer drafting. But I think this was a great draft for the Chargers. I think they were one of the 10 winners for me, 5 winners. But they're going to take some time. They're going to take some time. They have some holes to fill. Broncos are bad. Yeah,
they're not going to be that playoff team that could knock somebody out this year, are they?
No. I mean, I'm not going to underestimate Harbaugh as a head coach, but
no one does.
I can't. I think they're a year away. I think they're on the right track, but I think they're a year away.
Surprised he took the Michigan players he took?
Not really. The one I'm surprised by, because he did draft a lot of Michigan players.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Which pretty much everyone kind of figured would happen.
The one I was surprised by was that he didn't take Corum. That was the one. I think everyone mocked Corum to the Chargers. They needed a running back. And when they did not draft a running back super high, they drafted their only running back in round 6. They didn't take Corum, which again, I don't hate not taking Corum. I think I'm not sure his style would hold up in the NFL because he got a lot of carries too, and that wear and tear it impacts you at some point. But I was a bit surprised I didn't take Corum.
Yeah, but let's talk about something that was on TV. I don't have this in the doc. I'm sorry, but something that was just on TV. Tom Brady's roast. And Bill Belichick coming out to the Imperial Death March.
Yes.
Does that surprise you at all?
Belichick has a good sense of humor. Belichick, people talk about Belichick where it's like he's all business, but you get him outside, he's always have a good time.
Yeah.
He can let his guard down, and he's a fun person apparently outside.
It did seem like his reaction to taking to Robert Kraft was a little mixed.
Yeah. But he was that guy there was a story about the Halloween party, and Randy Moss gave an invite to Belichick. He didn't expect Belichick to show up. And then Belichick shows up decked out in a costume. It's he knows how to have fun. He knows how to have fun.
I think most coaches do.
Yeah.
Some can be hard asses.
Maybe not Tom Coughlin. I can't see Coughlin doing a roast like that.
Overall, how did you react to did you watch the roast? And if you did, how did you react to it?
Yeah, I watched the highlights. I haven't got a chance to think of it. I watched the highlights. I was dying. The best joke was not to Brady. It was Belichick to Gronk. That was the best joke. I'm known for the phrase, do your job. Gronk, I've seen you on Sundays on Fox. I'm begging you, stop doing your job. That killed me because he's terrible at basketball. So I'm like, that is
and stop trying to be a kicker.
Yep. Love
that. So some teams got to announce that they're bringing new jerseys in this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know of 3. You might know of more. 2 wins, 1 loss. Texans, Lions, and Broncos.
Yeah. And I also said the Jets, but they changed their logo too. Jets are just going back to what they had, which is the right move.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, so the jerseys. Texans, obviously the one that everyone's gonna talk about is what people are calling the City Connect jerseys with the H.
Right.
Houston doesn't
I love that helmet.
Yeah. Houston does not have a lot of history. They don't have any tradition to go off of where you're messing this up and everything. If Houston's going to if any team is gonna go bold, why not the Texans? Why not? They have nothing to lose.
They've never
changed outside the box.
They've never done anything different. They've always held the same logo, the same jersey design, other than the alternate helmet that they did.
Mm-hmm.
this is the first major overhaul they've done,
Yeah.
and I'm down with it. I love the third jersey look, and I love the helmet. I love that H on the helmet.
Mhm.
I'm just pissed that there's still this pending this pending hatred that the Titans have against Houston, that they'll never release the the Oilers baby blues to Houston.
Yeah, I think part of why is because they spent 2 seasons in Tennessee as the Oilers. If they didn't do that, they probably released it at some point. But it stinks. It stinks. Because obviously those unis were incredible. Those unis, that color scheme was amazing. But if
How
any team, yeah, if any team's
how
gonna,
much fun would it be to see a Houston Texans team take the field at NRG wearing those jerseys?
it'd be incredible. It'd be incredible. It would be. I think everyone would love it. Everyone would
Yeah.
love it.
Do you think they did the best they could do with not being able to use a true baby blue color scheme?
I'm not sure about the best they could do, but because it is weird with the Texans that their color scheme is different from every other team in Houston for the most part. Like
Right.
every other team in Houston, like the Rockets used to wear orange, the Astros are orange, the Dynamo are orange, and the Texans don't have any nothing about it screams Houston, but
Right.
it's an upgrade of what they had, and I have no problem thinking outside the box. Like it's not like it's the Cowboys being like, we're gonna get rid of our uniforms that we've worn forever, and we're gonna do this to create a new logo and do this alternate craziness. This
It would be
is
kind
a
of like
team with no
it's
history.
not like the Cowboys saying, "Hey, we're ditching the silver and we're actually going to wear away jerseys when we're away
Yep.
instead of at home."
Yep. It's almost like in baseball. Like the Yankees don't have a City Connect jersey. The Yankees
Right.
will always wear the pinstripes. You
Right.
can't mess that up. The Rays, they just added their City Connects and a new look, and it looks great. I'm like, they have nothing to lose. They have
Looks
nothing
better
to
on
lose.
TV than it did in the
Wait,
pictures,
the
right?
photo did not do it justice. On TV, it looks amazing. The photo did
Yeah.
not do it justice. I was like, you can't read anything. But on
Right.
the field and on TV, I'm like, oh, this is sick. This is like in my top 5 City Connectors. Like this is sick.
The photos seem to like have a bad filter on it or
Yeah.
something.
Because I felt like I was going crazy when people were saying like, "Oh, these jerseys are phenomenal." I can't read anything.
Yeah.
But maybe
The
just that
Lions
photo.
the
Yeah.
Lions introduced a black jersey. What do you think of it?
I like the black. My favorite thing the Lions did is the blue helmet with the
Yeah.
old logo. I love that. I need that immediately. That's immediately one of the top helmets in the NFL.
Were you kind of hoping they would keep the Ford inspired logo that they use, that they of course was one of their old logos, but then they used last season in one game, and the jerseys that went with it were horrendous?
Yeah, I was fine with him not doing that. I was fine with him not doing that. I think the
Yeah.
Lions knocked it out of the park. I think of all the not counting the Jets because they just went back to what they had, but of the teams that kept their logo but changed their unis, I think the Lions did the best job overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the true loser of of jersey redesign this year, the Broncos. They nailed one, and then it was a complete miss on the other two. Their away jerseys look bad, and then their home jerseys look like they really didn't change much other than putting a lightning bolt on their shoulders.
Yeah, they really did not do a good job. They hyped it up for a while, and they hyped up what was the same thing. It was
Right.
basically the same thing they've worn before that people wanted to change. They missed the mark. They missed the mark. They missed what the fans wanted. They nailed the throwback look. They nailed the throwback look.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
I'm sure all they had to do was go ask John Elway for some old jerseys, and that wasn't too hard to nail.
yeah. I think the sad part is that most teams, if they went back to the throwback, it's an upgrade over what they have right now. I think there's some exceptions. There's some exceptions, but for the most part, teams just go back to what they used to have. And the Broncos are one of them, and they completely botched this.
As long as the Jags don't go back to mustard yellow.
Yeah, but they are They did announce they're doing throwbacks. They are doing throwbacks.
That's good.
They're going back to the '95 unis.
Nice.
I don't know if it's gonna be 95 or 99, but they're going back to the original unis they had for one
Oh,
game.
nice.
I'm guessing it's going to be the game that Tom Coughlin gets inducted into the Pride of the Jaguars. I don't know when it's going to be, but
Right.
they're going to go back for one game, and hopefully it's going to be permanent next year. The fan base loved it. The fan base loved when they announced that because, like,
would it be heartbreaking to you if they decided to do a London game in the throwbacks?
I mean, if it's the only game, yes. If it's the only game they do it in, but if they do it for, they can do it for as many games as they want for all I care. Like, just get those throwbacks on the field.
Yeah. Some big free agents signed right around the draft. One of them left us scratching our heads. The other one is like, okay, maybe Zeke goes back to Dallas. After how many years was he gone?
One. His final play was him being a center against the Niners, and now it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm upset.
Your thoughts on how bad of a decision this is?
All in. They're all in. They're all in. Their definition of all in is let's sign no running backs. Let's bring back Rico Dowdle. Let's bring back Deuce Vaughn, who had 1.7 yards per carry, the fewest among any running back with 20-plus carries last year. Let's re-sign the corpse of Zeke. Let's not draft a guy. We're going to have the worst running back. Let's not sign anyone in free agency, period. Let's bring back Mike McCarthy. This is the worst definition of all in ever. This is like if I say at the dealer's table, by the way, to answer your question earlier, I lost 100. The roulette wheel was not kind to me. But this is like if I say I have like 100 chips and I say I'm all in and I put one chip down. That's not all in. That's not all in.
They must be going all in to lose every game this season.
Like, this is the worst all-in strategy I've ever seen in my life.
All in to get the number 1 draft pick.
All in, they've gotten worse. Like, objectively, they've gotten worse. Like, they did not add any free agents. Their running back room is worse because they lost Pollard. Not that he was even that good last year, but they lost Pollard.
Right.
With Zeke, and they kept everything the same. This is not all in.
Right. Your thoughts on Odell Beckham going to Miami? Is this a new target for Tua, or is this a check down target for Tua?
Yeah, this is we saw this coming for a bit. Like, there were rumors for a while that Beckham was going to go to Miami. I think it's a good move. He's a guy that's going to get you, if he stays healthy, about 600 yards a season at this point. Like, he's not what he used to be, but he can get you 600, 700 yards a season. Yeah, as a number 3 receiver with Hill and Waddle, like, that's really, really good.
And do you think the fact that he is that veteran, he can bring that leadership to that wide receiver room and make the whole group better?
Definitely, because the thing with the Dolphins was that behind Hill and Waddle, their receiving was very thin. Very thin. They did not have a lot of guys. And now they've got a good 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure they had a 1, 2, 3 before that.
Yeah. And they have leadership too.
Mm-hmm. Oh
yeah. Any other signings that have stood out to you since the draft?
Since the draft, it's been pretty quiet. I mean, Tyler Boyd just signed with the Titans earlier today, which he's a good number 3. I mean, that's an interesting receiving unit you got right now with Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd. They're really giving Will Levis no excuses whatsoever. They're stacking up that receiving unit.
Which is going to mean headaches for our secondaries.
Yeah. It also means they're giving up on Burks. That also means that tells you everything you need to know about Treylon Burks. They've given up on him, which I get. I mean, I think he's better in the slot, and they never played him in the slot, so I'm not willing to give him just yet. I think he's just being misused right now, but you can definitely sense they are. You can definitely sense that they are not trusting in him at all.
Right. Now, you being from Arizona, you probably heard about this like as soon as it was announced.
Oh yeah.
A certain celebrity has decided to sponsor a bowl game. Snoop Dogg getting into the bowl game sponsorships for the Arizona Bowl. Is this something you saw coming that celebrities might start doing, or is this kind of totally out of left field?
Totally out of left field. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel did his thing with the LA Bowl, but that's LA. That's I mean,
Right.
you're in LA. You can get the celebrities to come out from LA. This is Tucson. This is the middle of nowhere.
Right.
This is not a big bowl game. Like even like the LA Bowl is like a Saturday night in prime time. This is not that. The Arizona Bowl
This
is
is
never.
day after Christmas.
Mhm.
I believe it's the 26th. And it's not, I don't even think it's a primetime game, is it?
No, it hasn't been. The Arizona Bowl's never been prime time. And what's crazy to me about this, besides the fact that Snoop Dogg's hosting a bowl game, is that what can you even do with that? Because
Right.
he's offering a product that is you have to be
Adult
21.
only.
You have to be 21.
You're offering a product that no one on the field can even touch.
Yeah. And on top of that, remember, like a lot of these companies give out gift baskets. They
Right.
give out gift baskets to the players for making the game. So, like when Sony did the festival, they gave out PlayStations to people.
Right.
Like Barstool used to do the Arizona Bowl before this. We knew they were pulling out, but they gave like Barstool merch and whatnot. You can't give them alcohol.
Exactly.
What are we going to give them? Snoop Dogg CDs? Like you can't do that. Like no one owns a CD player.
Right.
Like, I don't like. I'm
codes for digital
I'm
downloads.
going to it.
Yeah. Yeah, this was kind of this. I saw it today and I was like, this is too funny not to ask you about. But yeah, the entire and talk about a convoluted name. The Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop. That's the entire title of the game now.
Yeah.
It's like, can you make it any longer, please?
They should have just Beats by Dre. They should have done that. I guess that you could give, if Dre's attached to it, you could give Beats by Dre. Like you could actually give a pretty sick gift.
Yeah.
But
how many of those athletes already have Beats?
Right. Right.
Most of them.
Most of them. Because Beats are awesome. Beats are the best headphones out there.
Yeah. So now I'm going to kind of tie this in with something sports related, but we're going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we're going to talk about a woman that won an Emmy for her 2022 halftime show at the Super Bowl, Mary J. Blige. That's coming up. But first, Hulu released a docuseries that you've been watching on Bon Jovi, one of our favorite artists, who recently went through throat surgery. They have a new album, new songs being played pretty much everywhere that plays rock. One, what do you like the song? Do you think it showcases his singing ability? And two, what do you think of the series?
Yeah, so I feel like Bon Jovi's from pretty much the same band for the last decade now. I mean, Richie Sambora even said like the docuseries, like the band's gone stale. Like it's definitely you can set there's not really a lot of progression. But I will say the docuseries, phenomenal. But there are some things where I'm like, I was scratching my head. So they did a really good job. It's a Bon Jovi puff piece. It's really just John Bon Jovi puff piece in many ways. But a lot of stuff lines up with the behind the music they did on MTV.
I was gonna say, is it almost like that?
It's way more in depth. But a lot of the stuff lines up, like the trip to Russia, the drug issues, and how John was like the only person on the plane that went to Russia that was completely like sober and wasn't like a party animal.
Right.
A lot of it lines up, but they do a good job. What's interesting though is that in the docuseries, first off, Richie is drunk the entire time. They interview Richie. He's drunk, unfortunately. He's a mess. He's slurring his words. He's not all there. He's not all
well,
there.
He hasn't been all there for a few years now, though.
Yeah. And they go in depth on the whole Richie thing. They go in depth. And Richie's not happy about how he was portrayed in that, obviously. But he did not look good in that in the doc. They did kind of underplay this, like how important Richie was to the band. They did kind of underplay that, not to a lot, but they made it seem like okay, John was the genius behind everything. It was like I'm not so sure about that. But what's interesting to me about the docuseries is that they show John on tour in 2022 and he's struggling, and they go through the throat surgery and they show his rehab process and everything. And he sounds terrible. He sounds absolutely terrible. Like his voice is gone. His voice is shot.
Right.
And at the very end, they show the band like rehearsing, like 9 months after the surgery. And we don't get to really hear it. It's like auto-tune. You can tell it's clearly vocally processed and everything. And he's like, that sounded great. Like, I am so back. And the band's like, oh, he's back. He's got his fastball. So it's like it's teasing like a Bon Jovi tour again. And like he's back on the road. He's not going to sound like he did in 2022. But you never really got to hear that. You never really got to hear, like, you still are like, I'm not sure he's back.
Do you think he needs another 9 months of recovery before he really could say he's fully back?
I don't know, because the part they showed of him doing the him being back, like that was like March of 23.
Right.
So it was like a year ago, but like it sounded like it did in 22 or a lot of it. Which
now, how do you compare the how he sounds in the docuseries to how he sounds on the new single?
Yeah, I mean, live is a whole different ballgame than
right. I mean, obviously you have processing and all of that you can do on a single, but you know, the single I think is actually a decent single. I think it's doing decently. I don't think it's prime Bon Jovi material because you're missing the Richie element of writing that. But overall, I think it sounds okay. But I've heard both sides of the coin of saying it sounds great, and I've heard it sounds like trash.
Yeah. I think the thing also with Bon Jovi that was concerning to me in the doc was that he thought he sounded fine the entire tour. He was like, okay, I'm not what I used to be, but I sound fine. And his wife had to tell him after the final show in Nashville, no, that sounded bad. Like, I gotta be honest with you, that sounded bad. Like, he didn't recognize that he was not hitting notes and he sounded bad.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, maybe that's just like the musician. I mean, like, how can you not realize that you're not hitting the notes and you're not sounding good? Because I can tell, like, right away. Like, when I say, like, oh, I hit that, I did not hit that. Like, I can tell, like, what my limits are. And it seems like he didn't realize his limits. The other, what's bizarre to me, too, which I never understood, and he never brought it up in rehearsal, at least in the doc, was that he never changed the key of any of the songs from how he always played them live. And his voice clearly cannot hit those notes anymore.
Right. I mean, even Billy Joel has said that he's had to lower keys on like Uptown Girl because he can't hit it.
Yeah. Like he's singing Living on a Prayer in the same key that he did on the live shows in 89. But he's not hitting the notes to do
right.
It. Like, it's okay. You can go down a few steps. Like, it's totally fine. Like,
exactly. And do you think that's stubbornness on his part or just being clueless?
Bit of both. I think a bit of both. Definitely you could sense that he's got blinders on during the doc. Like, he thought everything was great with the band, and then he didn't realize like how tensions were, which he said Bora, and then the thing where he did Slippery When Wet, and then right after that tour went to New Jersey, did the New Jersey album, and didn't take a break, and he thought everything was fine, and after that and he didn't realize the tension in the band and how not taking a break and not taking any time off would have made everyone sick of each other and almost caused the band to break up. Like, he's got
the band's had problems throughout what 40 years now, but they've had their problems since after Slippery When Wet.
Yeah.
And it's been well documented, but like you said, John I agree. John never really saw it.
Yeah. I mean, there weren't any issues after Keep the Faith up until, I would say, Have a Nice Day.
Right.
And then you got Shanks got way more involved in the band, and that made Sam Bora upset. But also, Sam Bora does not look good in this because it's like he was upset that his part was being recorded by someone else, even though it didn't show up. And he never showed up to the sessions, and he and then he was upset that the album was done without him. It's like, well, you never showed up, and John's like, we got to keep powering on. Like, I don't know the meaning of the word break.
Yeah. How do how does Tito come across in this thing?
Tito comes across well. Tito comes across as very knowledgeable. Definitely
Kind
he
of the glue,
addresses. Yeah, he
kind of the glue that
addresses.
held them all together, huh?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure about. I'm not sure about the glue that how well. I feel like David Bryan comes off as the glue,
As
but
the glue. Okay.
Tico came off as he was a party animal in the '80s, and he had to really settle down and stop doing what he was doing. And then after that, like he was fine. But
Yeah.
Ryan is the glue. It makes it seem like Brian's the glue in this.
Oh, okay.
But the story of the best story, they did not tell this in the MTV thing. There's a story, I won't spoil it, from the second part in Guadalajara, where they end the tour. They end the New Jersey tour in Guadalajara. It is nuts. I had never heard this story before. But
Wow.
it is absolutely nuts, and I have no clue how they pulled this off. But it's insane.
After seeing this docuseries, who are some other artists you might like to see do a series like this before they're gone?
Man, that's tough.
Other than Billy Joel, because we both would love to see something on Billy
Right.
Joel's.
Right. But Billy Joel, like he does a lot of like the Sirius XM interviews. I feel like it'd just be the same as that. Like I feel like we
Yeah.
know a lot about Billy Joel already.
We do.
Yeah. I would definitely say Rolling Stones would be interesting. Rolling Stones, with how long their career has gone and all the issues they've had, that would be an interesting series to do.
Yeah. So I teased it a minute ago. Mary J. Blige was obviously has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 24, along with Cher, Dave Matthews Band, Peter Frampton, Kool and the Gang, A Tribe Called Quest, and then the two that one that I'm glad finally got in, Foreigner, and then the one that got his second nod in, Ozzy. Let's start with Mary J. Blige, and let's go back to 2022, where she was part of that great halftime show. What are your memories of her starting out and her becoming big as she is now?
Yeah, I mean, she's just been a mainstay for a while. She's just been a powerful vocalist for a while. Like her vocals have gotten better. They've gotten better. I mean, obviously starting out with things like Real Love and Not Gonna Cry, and then 2000s like Family Affair, great song. That was like my jam in high school. I love that song. And then obviously Be Without You is probably my favorite song by her. Like that's
something I didn't know. The record label that signed her is Uptown Records.
Mm-hmm.
Signed her in '89. At the time, she was the only female artist on the label, and she was also the youngest artist on the label. Does it surprise you that she got in as easily as she did, and then two, that the success she had in the R&B field with mixing in that soul that she is so good at, she didn't cross over more into some of the soul charts and especially the mainstream top hundreds more than she did?
Yeah, she didn't have a number one hit besides Family Affair, which is shocking because she's got a lot of hits. But I'm not surprised she broke in. I'm a bit surprised she was the only female artist on there. But I was not surprised that she broke in because A, her voice is incredible. And B, this was around the time that female artists in that space in R&B were starting to gain notoriety. You had Pebbles having some stuff. You had Janet Jackson. You had some other artists that were doing stuff. It was a good time, especially with New Jack Swing and everything. Obviously, she didn't do New Jack Swing, but it was a good time. It was a good time for R&B and that demographic and everything.
Yeah,
it was not like the early '80s. If it was the early '80s, no chance, no chance. She would have been just not a flash in the pan, but she would have been very niche, very very niche. She came in at a great time.
Let's talk about Cher. 60 years of doing music. Um, what can you not say about her? And what can you say bad about her? Started with Sonny Bono with the Sonny and Cher, went on to do some TV, reinvented herself in the 80s, then reinvented herself again in the 90s. She's still putting out albums. Put out a Christmas album this last December. Uh I I fell in love with Cher probably when I heard the Heart of Stone album.
Mhm. Great.
Um, but my favorite song of hers is one that she recut on the believe on um I forget the album title, but is a blue background, which is her standing
Mhm.
in front of it.
That was the Believe. Yeah, that was the Believe album. I forget
Uh,
if that was the name of it, but that was the one I believe came off of.
um, anyways, she recut a more like an 80s edgier version of Bang Bang,
Hmm.
which was, I believe, originally off of the Gypsies
Yeah, that was back. Yeah,
album.
that was early '70s. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the song that I really fell in love with. Um, and then also one of your fans says the Just Like Jesse James, also
That's
a
in my top
great
3.
Cher song.
That's in my top 3. She doesn't like that song a lot. She plays it now in concert because a lot of people like it, but she's admitted that's not one of her favorites.
Yeah.
That's my top 3.
98, of course, she comes out and blows everyone away using auto-tune artistically, not as a crutch. And of course, we had the auto-tune craze of the 2000s because of it. Do you see this long overdue for her?
Oh, of course. Of course, this is long overdue. She's been around since the dawn of time, essentially. She's incredible. And she's reinvented herself so many ways. She's come back multiple times. Um, just the career that she's had has been legendary. I was listening to American Top 40 the other day with Casey Kasem, and this was before I forget what song. I think it was before he was announcing "Take Me Home" from '79. But he
Yeah.
said that like there was a period where like back in the '60s, she was asked, or she like a record producer came up to her and said, "You're never going to make it." He said, "You're never going to make it," which
Yeah.
is insane because obviously she's had this incredible career. I think what's amazing about Cher is that she's come back twice, and I don't know how many artists can say they've come back twice. And they
Right.
had their biggest hit 40 years after their career started, or 35 years, or whatever it was. And their second biggest hit they had 20 years after their career started. Like, how many artists can say that? It would
Right.
almost be like if Bruno Mars, with all the success he's had, his biggest hit comes in 2045, and his second biggest hit comes in 2035. It'd be like that. It'd be
Right.
like, what on earth? Like, he's done
If
with
it
all
was
the
if it was just her time with Sonny Bono and maybe the 70s solo stuff she did,
Mhm.
and she never reinvented herself for the 80s, are we having the same conversation? Is she still Hall of Fame material now if she wouldn't have had the 80s, 90s, and 2000s?
Yeah, it's tough because they let a lot of people in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that are not rock and roll. But '80s is really when she did some rock stuff, like if I could
Turn
turn
Back
back
Time.
time is yeah, if I
Turn
could
Back
turn
Time
back
was
time.
amazing.
Yeah, that's my favorite song by her. And then
You sure it's not the
obviously,
video?
yeah, yeah, you have to see Believe. I mean, not you have to see, but like you have to look at Believe and be like, okay, if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a celebration of music and how the music industry has evolved. We're not where we are today without that song.
Right.
That song was the first one to really use autotune, and that was a
To
hit.
openly use
Yes, yeah,
auto-tune.
yeah, to openly use it like that, where
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, you know this is computerized, you know this is fake,"
Right.
um, and to use it like that and have it be a hit, and have it be, I think, the number 1 song of '99 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah.
Because it hit number 1, I think it was the number 1 selling song of the year.
Yeah.
Like, that was you have to put
Yeah,
her in
that
just for that.
yeah, that I mean, even if there wasn't the 70s stuff and it was just the 80s and beyond, she's in.
Yeah.
I don't think she really. I think you could really put her in twice. You could put her in as Sonny and Cher, and then you can put her in as herself for her solo career in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I feel like Tina Turner could be the same way.
Yeah.
Diana Ross. Yeah.
Foreigner. Why the heck did it take so freaking long to get Foreigner in? I mean, are they just that obsessed with not putting these legendary rock bands into the Hall of Fame anymore?
Doesn't make sense. I mean, they started on what, 77, 76?
Something like that.
Yeah, I Wouldn't Be Your Man isn't auto-tune. It's Talkbox. It's different, but that was 88. But that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite songs of all time. That's in my top 5. Foreigner, I mean, they started out in 77. You would think they'd be in by this point. You would think with all the songs they've had, rock legendary songs are still played over and over again.
Like they've been eligible since 2002.
Yeah, every rock station plays Jukebox Hero. Everyone knows that song. Plays Feels Like the First Time. Like you think like staples of late 70s rock. You think Boston More Than a Feeling. You think Foreigner Feels Like the First Time. Those are the two songs you think of when you think like late 70s rock that you're like barbecuing to. Outside.
And we know how much Classic Rewind loves playing Foreigner.
Yeah, it's anything Eagles, it's anything Boston, anything Foreigner. Those are the big three. And how you can't put Foreigner in until now, when they're about to break up, or not break up, but like retire, is nuts. Yeah. It's nuts to me that it took them this long to get in. They've always gotten shafted because Foreigner, obviously this induction, obviously the other one they had was Waiting for a Girl Like You, was number 2 on the Hot 100 for I think 11 weeks.
Yeah,
never hit number 1. I forget if it was 9 or 11 weeks.
And they were kept out by several different artists.
Yeah, Hall & Oates, and the big one was Physical by Olivia Newton-John.
Which, that's
you couldn't give 1 week. You couldn't give 1 week to Waiting for a Girl Like You. You couldn't give 1 week.
Adam Rader, who does Professor of Rock here on YouTube,
just a million subs, but it's awesome.
Yeah, he has talked about Foreigner and how certain songs kept them out, but it never got them down that they weren't hitting number 1. That they always just tried harder.
Yeah, just Can't Play This Feeling finally gave them that. They had to do the sappy ballad, the sappy power ballad. They had to. It was good. I love that song, but they had to do it. That's like I meant I want to know what love is. I meant I want to know what love is. I don't know why I said Can't Play This Feeling. I want to know what love is. That's what I meant.
You mentioned Physical by Olivia Newton-John. I actually saw a video on re-listen to this song as an adult. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yes. That is a song that I do love, but I fully acknowledge that there is no way it has that run if it's not during MTV. If that came out 1 year before, it maybe hits 1, but it's not remembered like it is.
And it's not. It has nothing to do with that video.
Yeah, that was like the first video that really took off on MTV. Like obviously, like Video Killer Radio Star, but that was like 79. That was like the first video made for MTV that took off. And it's like, oh, like okay, this is how you use music videos to promote your song. Like that was the first one. Dave
Matthews Band, 90s staple here. Glad they're in. I did not listen to a lot of their music, but I know that they're probably on your playlist.
Yes.
They've had some big hits, but to me it's like they were more lower top tier of the bands of the 90s. What's your thoughts on them getting in?
They're a live band. They're alive. There's some artists that are like live artists.
Queen.
And they've had their hits, obviously, but there's some that are live artists, and they are a live artist. Like you look at the set list for Dave Matthews Band for all their concerts, it's always different. They're always doing jam sessions. They're always reinventing the wheel in that way. They're just a really, really good band, a really tight band, and obviously they've had some really, really good hits. And this is overdue. This is overdue for them.
Are you surprised it took Ozzy this long to get his solo career inducted?
Shocked. I know you have to wait 25 years, but you would think right after Crazy Train that you just put him in right then and there. Crazy Train would be like, okay, you know what? You can bypass eligibility.
Right. Cool in the Gang. You think this is more of how they reinvented the genre?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
they survived all different eras. Like they were around from 60s, 70s, 80s, but like I don't want to say they were like a disco group, but they really were the only group that did that kind of music that
that
survived
survived it.
in the 80s. And they
Yeah.
did it by reinventing themselves. And
Yeah.
they had their harmonies are super tight. They've had some great songs. And yeah, this is deserved. This is deserved. Another one that's long overdue.
Yeah. So not only do they do the performers for for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
I shall say
ceremony.
before going any further, Peter Frampton, I'm
Oh
shocked it's
yeah.
this long for him to get in because Peter Comes Alive or Frampton Comes Alive is the quintessential live album. And if we
Very
were talking
true.
about reinventing, like share with autotune, Peter Frampton with the talk box, reinvented
Yes.
everything. And he's another one of those live performers that you would think just off the strength of that album that came out in '76, that live album, that he would be in by this point. I'm shocked it took this long for him.
Yeah. The one we didn't mention was A Tribe Called Quest. I know nothing about them.
They're letting hip
Um,
hop. Yeah, they're letting a lot of hip hop groups now in. So
yeah. Um, so they do musical excellence awards. One of these I know is posthumously Jimmy Buffett being recognized this year for musical excellence. Uh, the dude could sing, he could play. Never had a number one hit until Alan Jackson got him to sing one verse on a song. Had number one country hit. Um, everyone knows Margaritaville, and the song that Alan kind of wrote to go along with Margaritaville was 5 o'clock somewhere. Is Buffett very much an underrated artist when it comes to the industry?
I'm not sure about underrated. Um, maybe there's some artists that are more the not the critic's darling, they're the fan's
Right.
darling. And Buffett was a vibe. Buffett it transcended music. Buffett was just a whole feel. It was a whole different vibe. Like you were going to see Jimmy Buffett to party like no other artist you've ever seen before. You're going for the music. Like there's a reason why a lot of minor league teams have Jimmy Buffett nights.
Yeah.
Even though most people, like the average person, can name very few Jimmy Buffett songs. So there's a reason that his music is still resonating. There's a reason his music is around. There's a reason that his vibe is still around.
Yeah, the Cheeseburgers in Paradise is probably one of my favorite songs by him.
Yeah,
But everyone knows Margaritaville. It's one of the most popular karaoke songs. It's just
unfortunately. Yeah.
massively it's a massive song. But I always felt like he just did not get the recognition he deserved. And the fact that he pretty much stayed down in the Key West area, that was kind of where he did all his recordings. He loved the Caribbean, and I think that it just was maybe a a Gulf vibe that he gave off that just didn't resonate nationally for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, Dionne Warwick is also on this list for excellence musically. Amazing artist and can really sing, has a great voice. Is she someone that you listen to regularly, or is it she shuffles in every once in a while? How do you feel about her?
Yeah, I mean, she's super talented. I mean, she's had hits in 3 decades. I mean,
Right.
she's super good at what she does. It's more like shuffles in and out. Like That's What Friends Are For is a phenomenal song. Like
Oh, definitely.
what's crazy about like all the firepower on that song and work might be the best part of that. All the
Yeah.
firepower on that song.
Um Now, I'm not real sure how they pronounce the name on this Lifetime Achievement Award, but Suzanne de Pass gets Lifetime Achievement Award. She was one of the first major executives in the music business. I think this is well deserved. More women in the business side of music need to be recognized because for so long this was a male dominated uh, it was male dominated on the business side, and she really changed the game. uh she's not that well known outside of, like I said, the business side of things, but from what the from what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame put on their website, she was someone you didn't want to mess with when it came down to the business of knowing what was going to hit on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
And so she had, so this is the article that they published on her: 6 decades of in the entertainment field. She 20 years with Motown. I mean, Motown was a huge 70s and 80s, so that makes sense. Born in Harlem, but like there's names in here that we all recognize, that she was influential with: the Jackson 5, Sydney Birdsong, the Supremes. Well, she was friends with Cindy from the Supremes, I should say. Barry Gordy, Rick James, the Commodores. I mean, this lady knows some people.
Everyone who's anyone.
Yeah. She's co-written a screenplay with co-wrote a Billie Holiday screenplay biopic called Lady Sings the Blues. I mean, she's done everything. She knows everyone. Obviously, this is lifetime achievement for her to get recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Big congrats to her. And she's even been part of TV. So, I mean, major props. So, what's coming up on JG9 News and your main channel this weekend, or the rest of this week and this weekend?
Yeah, it's gonna be busy. So we have the UFL games that we're streaming. We're doing videos every day on JG9. Trying to bring the baseball channel back, which would be awesome. I've also got we have breaking news that happened while we were on stream. The NFL schedule is going to come out next Wednesday, so I'll be going live for that.
Now, is that the day you predicted?
I predicted the day before that.
Oh, okay.
But I did not say May 9th like everyone else was saying. So, I'm closest to the pin. I'm okay with that.
You're only 24 hours off.
I win the closest to the pin contest in predicting when the schedule is. But it's going to come out Wednesday. So we have trivia this week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. But next week, we're going to move that to Thursday because I'll go live for the schedule release. So it's going to be busy times on the channel. Going to be streaming a lot. And we might be doing Friday night streams now, too. We might be doing.
Now, are you going to be streaming the schedule release on news or on the main channel?
On the main channel. So everything gets streamed on the main channel. I'll talk about, I'll do videos on the schedule on the news channel, but I have to do all the streams on JG9 because that's where the memberships are.
Yeah. Obviously, the member 50 something thousand versus what, 30 something thousand?
Yeah, 3,400. Yeah.
I love your news videos because, like this, it's very relaxed. It's free form, and I have a lot of fun watching you do those. Obviously, we have a lot of fun here every month, recapping the previous month's worth of sports and music news, and just have a great time. I love, I kind of hinted it to you during one of your live streams when you were advertising this show for us. This is JG9 News with a second person and just a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you continuing to do this with me. I know I pick your brain a lot with some of this stuff, and we have a lot of fun. Last night, you actually got to see Jacksonville, Texas, for the first time on GeoGuessr. I love that you recognize the 703 or the 903 instead of the 904 on the sign. I had to laugh when someone actually picked Jacksonville, Florida on that guess.
They did not understand the assignment at all.
And I don't think you actually saw. I was playing that game against y'all, and I won that one. But then again, I'm the one that made it, so
right. I couldn't tell who won because that was like the one game where like it glitched out. Like was just not cooperating that day.
Yeah, and I think I didn't win the Southwest Conference one just because someone was actually guessing closer into the campuses than I was.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun every Monday night. Now you're moving that to Friday nights come football season?
During football season, we'll move that to Friday nights. Yeah, because I love doing it, but obviously I can't do it Monday nights because I'll be streaming Monday Night Football.
And there's no way you're doing it in overtime.
No. Oh God, no.
So till we see each other next month. First Tuesday of the month is when we do this live 6:30 ish, somewhere in that time frame. And as always, thank you for doing this and enjoy that circle bottle. I know that you've been using it a lot for your workouts. So till then, I'm Scorpion Tazz. That's JaguarGator9. See you next time.